Hey guys, so today what we're going to do is just really quickly go over the three basic properties of logarithms and how to use them. So um, here are the three properties of logarithms. There is the product rule. The product rule says that if you take the log of something of two numbers m and n times each other, you can split it up with a addition sign and split them separately, the log of one plus the log of the other. The second one is the quotient rule. The quotient rule says that if you take the log of two numbers that are being divided by each other, you can split those up as well and separate them with subtraction. And then third rule is the power rule. The power rule states that if you're taking the log of some number, say m here, and it's raised to the power of p, what you can do with that p is bring it out and in front and get rid of it as an exponent when you're dealing with logs. So let's take that into action. Again, this is probably always good to take notes on, especially these types of rules. In general, you should have all these practice problems in your notebook as notes, but for sure these three rules are crucial. So if you need to, pause it and write these down. Let's start with the product rule. So let's take an example. Let's take an example of log base 3 of 2x. Now, with the product rule, it says that really I'm taking the log of 2 and I'm taking the log of x. So what I can do, because this is a product rule, because this is being multiplied, I can use the product rule. The product rule up here says that I can separate these. So what I can do is I can take these two, the 2 and the x, and separate them to write this equivalent as log base 3. Remember, see, we're keeping the same base. Nothing is changing with the base at this point in the rules that we know. Log base 3 of 2 plus the log base 3 of x. And that would be done. Now, it doesn't necessarily get more simple, and there's not really much you can actually quantify from here. You can't simplify it, but if it was just to get comfortable with the rules, I want you to be able to know how to split that up. So there's the product rule. The second one is the quotient rule. For example, if we had the log of 10/30. Now, remember that if there isn't a log base, the imaginary log base is a 10. So there's an imaginary 10 in between those, but we don't need to write it. Just like we wouldn't write 1x, we would just write x. The common base is 10. Because this is a quotient rule, I see two things being divided by each other. So this is really the log of 10 and the log of 30 separated. And because this is a quotient, I can go and use the quotient rule, rule number 2. Something divided by something I can split with subtraction. So I go back here and I say this could also be written as the log of 10 minus the log of 30. And these both still have an imaginary base of 10. And then finally, the power rule. The power rule says that if you have something, taking the log of something with a power inside of it, you can bring the exponent out and in front. So, for example, if I was taking the log of 3 to the x, this is the same thing as bringing this exponent down and in front. So I could write this as x times log of 3. Now again, if there's no base here, the imaginary base is 10. This is going to help us. You might ask why this all matters. We're not doing anything, we're just moving stuff around. It's going to help us when we start to solve logarithmic equations. So it's really important to get used to these three properties of logs. There's only one more, and we're going to learn that in a separate day because it's a little more complicated, but these are really the three main rules that you must remember. We've dealt with products and quotients and powers before. The great news is that I always feel like there's addition and multiplication have some relationship, and division and subtraction have another relationship. So if you can just remember those two relationships, multiplication and addition, and division and subtraction, you're going to be good to go with these rules, at least for 1 and 2. And then third one, you're just really always taking the exponent and putting it down in front. So let's try an example. Okay, so you should be good with these three rules. Again, we're going to go over this in class, but this is just an introduction for you. So